When we started off the show with this interview, before the interview began, I showed a picture of me from a year ago. Skinny fat, no definition, no real lean muscle, pot belly, 208 pounds.
That must be tough to look at, man. When you send me some of those old pictures, I'm like, I just don't remember you being that round.
I look at it every day. I look at it every day. It's my number one source of inspiration. I wake up every morning and I look at that picture of myself because I say never, ever again. Body fat was at 29.6%. Insulin resistant levels was at 27. Cholesterol was at 301. I think it was 301. I was at that.
Cholesterol was at 301. Your triglycerides were over 300. Too.
That's right. And my A1C levels, I was at a 6.3. 6.4, you still full-blown diabetic.
Yes.
I was at 6.3.
That's right.
Insulin resistant levels dropped from 27 to 2. Cholesterol dropped. We're now at 176.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yesterday.
I'm looking at, that's right. I'm looking at that. Lean muscle, I've gained about 5-6
Your
pounds of
blood
muscle.
sugar is in the normal range. You're not only not on the verge of diabetes, which you are a tenth of a point away, you are not even pre-diabetic anymore. You're normal blood sugar. You have single-digit insulin maintaining low levels of average blood sugar, which means you are more insulin sensitive. That is a great sign. It's one of the hallmarks of longevity. Right. Cholesterol's down to 179. Ken, we just mentioned that you are not on cholesterol medication.
That is correct.
I'll just put that out there.
That is correct.
In fact, you're not on any cardiovascular medication. Your testosterone, this is going to be really hard for people to believe, but your testosterone level is approaching 1,000 and you are not on testosterone, for the record.
And that's crazy. I mean, I'm wondering about I might explain a lot of things in a very positive way. You know what I'm saying? I got the testosterone level of a 30-year-old, I'm not using anything to get me there. You know, I'm just saying. You know, I mean, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. But in all seriousness, Gary, of all the things that the condition that I was in and the things that you had me doing, what stood out in your mind as the most dangerous element of my condition when you first met me?
What stood out to me was I know from being in the mortality space and that mortality factors, okay, abdominal obesity, hypertension, which you had at the time, which you don't anymore, hypertension, very elevated cholesterol, very elevated triglycerides, very elevated insulin. So these we call them mortality factors. At some point, they begin to converge. And when they touch, they become comorbidities. And there is a parabolic impact on the body, meaning a dramatically negative impact on the body. These were converging. In my opinion, and I'm not a licensed medical professional, so I'll just give you my private opinion as a human biologist, being on the doorstep of being an insulin-dependent diabetic was your greatest risk factor. And the reason why I say that is when we would do mortality modeling, what happens is people slowly, their blood sugar rises and it rises and it rises over time. And then they become pre-diabetic and they sort of creep through this diabetic category, 5.6, 5.7, 5.8. As soon as they cross this 6.0 mark, they're 0.4 of a point away from being diabetic, is a parabolic rise and it happens very fast. It may take years. You can spend years in the pre-diabetic range. And once you get to the top end of that range, it explodes. Once that insulin takes off and then it eventually crashes and the blood sugar takes off, now all hell breaks loose. The triglycerides skyrocket, the cholesterol gets out of control, the abdominal obesity gets worse. And now, instead of something that took you 2 years to occur, month over month over month, it gets worse. And we saw this in the mortality space. So I felt, and I told you this at the time, that it was very serendipitous that we met at the time that you did. And also that you were as committed. And I think, when I look back on it, I remember thinking in my mind, okay, I'm gonna shut these guys' headache. I'm gonna shut this guy's headaches down right away. I'm gonna give him a glimpse in the next 7 days of what it's like to feel normal. Because you told me you felt amazing, and I reminded you didn't feel amazing, you just felt normal. Because I knew that if I could shut the headaches down, and I could make you have a glimpse of how good it feels to feel normal in just a 7-day period of time, then the hook would set because I have to have you on the team. You know, I mean, let's not poo-poo the fact that you put in the work. You changed your diet up. You made lifestyle modifications. You made dietary changes. You committed to going into the gym. You know, that was on you. But the point is that you have to give people a glimpse of how good it feels to feel normal to set that hook. Same with Dana White and same with every client that I work with our clinical team is I try to very quickly give them a glimpse of what it's like to be all the way on the other side. And they're like, wow, I feel amazing. And then you don't want to go back. That's what you kept saying. You're like, I'm never going back. And are you ever going back?
I went from being conniving and slick and trying to avoid the gym to being pissed off that I missed going to the gym.
I know. Yeah.
That's how I went. And I'll ask you a question. You know what? Listen, because everybody knows I'm on ESPN. Yes, I've got my podcast and my show here. Everybody knows a lot about me, but they also know I'm incredibly private. I don't divulge a lot of stuff about myself because, damn it ain't people's business, and I tell them to go kiss off. I ain't telling everybody stuff. But when it came to the issue of health, I felt obviously differently because COVID. I was very public. Everybody could see the damage that it had done to me, et cetera, et cetera. So let me right here on my own show ask you something that I never wanted to know, and that is. Now that I'm out of the woods and I'm a little better, I say a lot better, but I'm only saying a little because I know where I'm aiming to go. You know, if you had to give my life expectancy back a year ago, now that it's a year later, I mean, I think I'm ready to hear what you would have told me. What would you have told me if I wanted to be Dana and I wanted my life expectancy?
Well, it would have been substantially less than it is now.
Right.
Right. Because what would have happened?
It wouldn't have been 10.4 years.
Yeah, and for the record, I want to say that you can't just do a blood test and a gene test and predict when somebody's going to die. I've done one life expectancy prediction since I left the industry.
Okay,
and that was Dana White.
Okay,
I do not do it
and
anymore.
And he asked you to.
And he asked me to.
Okay,
he actually made it a condition on me meeting with him, and because when I left that industry for good because I want to forget that time in my life. It's actually what propels me forward right now. I think that I've found my purpose in that pain. You know, I've thankfully turned it around from really regretting that time to saying, okay, well, that's where I gained my education and that's where I got the knowledge to turn around and help people. But in your case, what was very close to happening was the convergence of these mortality factors, mortality debits. And like I say, when they become comorbidities, it's a very dangerous situation. And one of the things that we would try to do in the mortality space is we would try to predict the chances that somebody would change. We would try to predict the chances that we could continue this mortality factor for a prolonged period of time. And the majority of people do not make a change. And they are leaving this earth years earlier than they should. And they are, like you said, they stop living and they become alive for many, many more years than they need to be, and then they die earlier than they should because they are not willing to modify these risk factors. And so I would simply say that it has more than doubled the amount of time that you have left on Earth. That I'm certain of, but to be exact, I didn't run those numbers, but more than doubled.